of Two Queers and a Truck. And I'm Jenny-Jaymes Gunn, and my sidekick, Christian Cano, partner in crime, is coming up next.
Hey everyone, I'm Jim's sidekick. Welcome to Two Queers in a Truck. Hi y'all.
See you.
Good morning, everybody. It is Two Queers in the Truck time 2025. So this is the first new edition for the new year. And, what an exciting time. Obviously, January is a month of new...
Bless you.
Sorry about that. It came on to me all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I guess I'm allergic to the new year. But anyway, we are with the first episode of the new year. We're excited to for our original show to be in our 8th filming season, and I don't know what we are on Two Queers. We got to
Sixth season.
Sixth season. I can believe it. We've had a lot of seasons, and
that's right.
A lot
We're
of
seasoned.
The show. We have hundreds of shows in the tank between the two main shows, and we got a whole family of suite of shows that are coming up that are different formats than what we currently do, with different hosts. And so anytime that you see any of our Canis Relay shows, I mean, I'm doing a commercial a little early and a little off script. Christian's trying to go all professional in 2020.
That's right.
and my bootleg nature is fighting it. I'm like, structure.
Okay.
But anyway, we will get started, and I just had to give him a little bit of grief because he was so serious off camera. Normally we're telling like dirty jokes right before we go on the air, and we're laughing. And so we actually sounded professional today, which really threw me off. Probably would have made me sneeze because I'm allergic to being professional. But anyway, we'll jump right into this. And, the more that the chuckle fucks and morons of the Republican Party, which is basically the entire party, begins the takeover, the ominous, switching of the presidents as they always do in January. I realized between the Congress and especially the House of Representatives and the presidential cabinet, these morons don't stand a chance. I mean, I'm watching them torpedo each other. I'm seeing Johnson barely squeak by a speaker's election where it came down to one or two Republicans making a deal to even give him his vote. Otherwise, he was not going to be the top vote getter in the congressional race, and was one or two defections away from putting Hakeem Jeffries, the Democrat, in the spot, because the Democrats keep holding strong with Hakeem, giving him 100% of the Democrat vote, and it's only a few votes to separate the Republicans and Democrats in the House. It's the most precarious lead that Speaker of the House has had in a while. And it makes a couple things really tight votes. It makes it almost impossible to push things through. Like they don't have the majority to push things through that are controversial, which is a very important part. If we think back to last year, we think about Dumpster talking about and he talks about a lot of things that he doesn't have. Like he doesn't have the contract secured with Mexico to build the wall. They laughed at him. He is the class clown without realizing he's the class clown. And the good thing is that Speaker Johnson has absolutely no power on Capitol Hill. He is the class clown's assistant. He's the lackey of the class clown. So he is the moron idiot friend of them. And between these two geniuses, and all the other chaos of the Trump administration, we should see some pretty epic meltdowns as they fail, and then they fail to convince the Senate to go along with their schemes. It should be 2 years of chicanery and fuckery at its best, with a dumpster fire ending of them losing the House in 2026, and then the Trump administration is over before it begins, just like it happened back in 2018 when Nancy Pelosi took back over and put some sanity back into Congress, with some adults actually being responsible and working for several years until we were stupid enough to give them the keys to the car back. And they wreck it every time. And speaking of that, I responded to a Facebook post in which they were talking about how people were surprised that, people support Trump and all that. And I'm going, I'll tell you who I'm really surprised. Two people that really surprised me. Anybody that had a woman in their family, and anybody that had a queer person in their family supporting Trump. And you can say whatever you want. You can say, it's because of morality, or, gays shouldn't be married to gays, and people should transition. But honestly, there's no medical ethics that a gay person or a trans person is breaking. There is no... Transitioning is not something that's immoral or a violation of any codes. Most of it's, I would call, almost in the realm of plastic surgery, optional things that physically change our bodies. Some not much more than what a tattoo would do, or things that nature. But when we come through the process, we're a lot better mentally. So, it's good healthcare, because at the end of the day, supporting your mind, body, spirit is very important to get to healing. With any healing process, no matter what we're talking about, whether it's a mental illness or a physical illness or both, proven studies, the more you support each system, the mind and the body, and the better you come through it, the better you're going to do in life in general, but also medically. And if we're really wanting to be a pro-life, pro-health country, which we would have to change a lot of things to actually qualify to be those kinds of things, pro-health would mean making sure all the needs are taken care of, that we have an efficient system of delivery, that it's not hard to get medical care. We already pay for all the medical care that we need. We already pay for the hospitals. We already pay for the first responders. We already pay for the doctors, the system itself. If a bunch of us stopped going to the doctors, there'd still be medical doctors. There's enough hot doctors in the hospital systems get paid salaries. They don't depend on one little person running into their practice and paying all their bills for them. And we have a system and an apparatus that we don't have the mentality that medical care is a service. We have it as some kind of profit center. And so we're basically taking emergency services and putting it instead of putting in the same category as necessities, like, I don't know, law enforcement or teachers or things that, for the most part, unless you're an idiot, for the most part, we don't consider school systems a profit center. If you have any ethics at all, you're not going to profit off the education of children. That we see that as part of our infrastructure, like building a bridge. Is that it's no different than educating a kid. Medical service is kind of the same thing. We kind of need it. It behooves us. There's a ton of physical illnesses and really horrific effects from poor dental health, for example. Dental health should be carried in our universal health care, because there's, you can have heart attacks because of bad dental hygiene. There's a lot that's connected. It's not like the plaque that gets into our heart is the same plaque that comes off our teeth. It's not like it's a special kind of plaque that goes into our heart that just originates in our veins and just shows up. And so I guess my whole point is we've already got a very elaborate, expensive healthcare system. We just all got to agree that this needs to be paid for in the most efficient way, and that everybody can access it, so we can keep those jobs in those industries. And the bottom line is we have more than enough money in the system, and all the systems we pay into, all the Medicares, all the veteran systems, there's enough flipping money in there for every American. There's more than enough money. Our costs would actually go down on universal health care. Proven fact. $150 billion in the bank every year, just by consolidating the paperwork and the efficiency. $140 billion. Going to universal health care for us is free. We already pay into the system. Our medical system has not collapsed. Our medical system is one of the nicest medical systems in the world. We've just decided that we're going to make it complicated to pay the system. And so by making it complicated to pay the providers and that, what we've essentially done is we've locked people out of a system that we built the Taj Mahal, but we don't want anybody to walk into the Taj Mahal. We've got the most expensive medical care in the world. We spend more money on medical care than anybody else. But yet not everybody can access it. And there's a difference. The difference between having it and being able to access it are two different things. And there's two different discussions that gets lost on all the Medicare for all and everything else. But when we're talking about a lot of these tug of wars, these civil rights and these human rights and all these very human things that we need to take care of, we get distracted by the argument because of the names themselves. It's not a Medicare for all movement. It's having the common sense that it's anyway money, that we're going to spend the money anyway. We do every year. We didn't stop paying neurologists in November of last year and said, you know what? We've already paid too much to the neurology industry. Y'all got to figure it out in the month of December and cut them off as an industry decision. While government checks are going to cease to exist in the month of November, we need to skip a month. You're going to take a 1 in 12 pay cut. Figure it out. Figure out how to run your practice on no federal income and no insurance income whatsoever. Your industry's chosen not to get paid in December. Nothing like that happens. So we have no money shortage for medical care. Urologists, neurologists, proctologists, gynecologists, all the ologists, all the doctors out there, all the nurses are still getting paid. Hospital systems, you don't hear either one of the major hospital systems in Charlotte shutting down. In fact, they're hiring, they're not laying off. Because it's a recession-proof industry. When we pay for it every year in the military, whether we want to or not, my dad still gets medical care through the VA. That note never changed. Our 1.4 million service people get serviced every year in active duty. Not to mention the reservists and many others that receive benefits from the U.S. military hospital system. All the people on Medicare still receiving their medical care. And the biggest point, and I'll say this a million more times this year, it's anyway money. We're going to spend the money. No industry in the medical industry gets cut off. They're not going to stop making hormones just because they ban trans people from taking hormones. All we're going to do is order it through a different system. We'll get it through 2 different countries, and we'll still get it, and it'll be for menopause. They'll just change my code to menopause, and it's over. I'll still get it paid for. I'll still get my HRT, just like all the other millions of women that are on hormones right now for various issues, whether it's thyroid, whether it's hair loss, whether it is all the millions of other hormonal things that you can go through in your life as a woman, we have to get treated for, and I'm no different. I go to the same kind of doctor. I do all the same things. I still have to get a breast exam by a certain age. I got to go through everything that a cis woman born into this thing has to go through. Nothing changes. And I go in the same medical system. as everybody else. But we are up against our first break after the first 2 episodes of 2025, and we'll be right back with some more Two Queers in the Truck. Hey, everybody, you can catch us on your favorite audio podcast platform, Spotify, and all Apple Store, the Google machine, and whoever else does podcasts. We're on there. We broke in, and we're staying. So enjoy the Two Queers in the Truck on your favorite audio podcast platform. Thanks for listening or watching. Bye-bye. Happy time. Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching the Two Queers in the Truck Show 2025 edition. We have a new special show that is coming on as part of the Canis Media family of shows, and it's the Tony Foreman Show. And they're going to talk about a little bit different things than we typically talk about on the coffee show or the queer show that we often reference. And it's going to be a little bit more of a serious show, a little bit more of talking about very specific issues amongst Latin, Latino men and Hispanic men. Tony Foreman is the Afro-Latino. And then I'm assuming that Christian's going to be on the show as well, which is a Latino male, a Tejano. And they're going to talk about things that are probably important to their generations, to what's going on in pop culture and where they fit in the world. And I guess that's always the existential question. Why am I here? But anyway, if you want to know why you're here and you whether you fit in that demographic or not, it should be interesting. I know Tony and Christian will keep it light and funny, and probably a little bit of silliness in there too, to boot. I'm looking forward to listening to it myself and not having to actually produce a show all the time. But please tune in at 10 o'clock on Wednesday mornings when that show drops, and enjoy more shows from the Canis Media family in 2025. Thank y'all. And we are back. Despite all this technology, I still have to do it the bootleg way on my phone, or as the timer. And I haven't figured out quite. I guess I could take a pen and paper and mark down when, the 5 or 6 minutes is up, because there's a timer sitting on the top of my Zoom that I stare at the whole time. And every time I take a break, I look at the time like I'm writing it down like you do. So Christian's also the show producer. If we've never talked about that on this, we talk about it probably more on the coffee show than this show. Yeah. Doing the production values. And so every week he takes this show and the other show and now the new shows, strips them down, gets them ready for the video and audio podcast platforms, inserts all the commercials and promos and PSAs we do. That he records my voice saying a lot of them, and away we go. And that's every week he does that. All I do is show up, blabber about stuff for about 2 hours, and go about my day. I just stopped in, did what I needed to do, and I just go on back out. And it's kind of and we've done this for years this way, honestly, because it works, and it's something that Christian's really invested into. And so all the things that y'all see all produced, he's producing that. Needless to say, if you know me fairly well and you listen to this show, I'm not producing this show. For y'all that don't know me well, I'm actually the real producer. Christian. That's right. That's right. So y'all don't know any better. But anyway, no, once you get to know me, you know that I'm too much of a dingus to produce a show. Like, we would never have a show. There would never be a show. We'd never go on. I got tons of friends, once they find out that I do a podcast, they do 2 things. They go and they listen to the podcast. Oh, your show's pretty good. Second thing is I've always wanted to do a podcast myself. Oh, what's your idea? And they tell me their idea. And I go, how many episodes have you recorded? 0.0. And I always find it to be an interesting thing, because I've done a couple big things this year. I said, when you do a thing, you do something that's fairly notable, that's noteworthy, where your friends can say, oh, you did a thing. You bought a car, bought a new house, changed jobs, bought a business, whatever you did that was social media net worthy. It's not like you picked up a bag of apples, at Harris Teeter or anything like that. Like, you did something life altering. like I have this year or last year, I guess I should say now. It's we're in 2025 and still getting used to that. One of the things is your friends and your family can tell that they kind of look at you like, did you leave me behind? But the second thing is, oh, I've always wanted to do that too. That now I found out all my friends pretty much want to own coffee shops. I'm like, well, I didn't really buy it because it is a coffee shop. I bought it because it, was a nice place that I've always gone to for 7 years since I've lived in Charlotte. And it's got a lot of potential. And I actually don't know a lot about coffee. I know a lot about food. I know a lot about alcohol. I've worked in both of those industries, but I've actually never run or owned or worked in a coffee shop of any kind. But I find how many people want to live the life I live, which is really weird because like, oh, we think we could do really good at podcasts. And honestly, you really probably can for the people that listen to our show that want to try their hand at podcasting. It is, for me, people ask me the other day what my hobbies are. And I really had to think hard. Like, I don't know if I really have any hobbies. And this is kind of a job, but it's kind of a hobby too. It's a challenge. It's a battle against attrition because starting a show is easy. Coming up with an idea and just getting on a microphone and talking into the void is not so hard. Consistently doing it over the years is a lot harder to stand the test of time because a lot of people will take pot shots at you. I know that Christian and I both have, in the political world, people taken a lot of stabs at us over the years, and I've seen it happen to Christian's seen it happen to me. And one of the things I'd like to say in 2025 is, fuck you, I survived.
Exactly. We're still standing.
So any of the jackasses that have taken shots at me the last couple years, just gonna let you know and put you on notice, this bitch is back, stronger than ever. And everybody that took pot shots at me, I did make a list and I checked it twice.
That's right.
To see whether you're naughty or nice. So some of y'all have shit sandwiches coming in the mail this year. Just be ready. But anyway, for the majority of you, you got nothing to worry about. And I'm screwed with people. I'm in one of those moods, and it's the first show of the year. And they're always, we've done this so long, and I have no nervousness about doing the show. I was more nervous when we first originally did it back in 2018, or when I did it in 2019, coming on as a guest. I was more nervous then because I just had never done a lot of broadcasting. I've done a lot of public speaking, but not a lot of broadcasting. It's different. Because the camera's always rolling. It's not like a speech. If you're in a line of people that are going to do the speaking engagement, and there's 1 in 5 or 6 of you, you have your off mic time and you have your on mic time, and your on mic time is very little.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're doing a podcast, cameras are always rolling. And you realize it because you see the timer going and you go, oh, it's always rolling. So you're having to constantly think about what you're about to say. Probably not the most recommended way of doing a show, but I don't write my show out anymore. I used to. The show became less funny. It became less spontaneous. Honestly, it killed the joy for me. I got to where, especially the Two Queer show, I resented doing the show. There was a point in time where it felt very robotic. I felt like we talked about the same fucking things every week with not better results. And it actually was probably heading off the cliffs of insanity a little bit. And now, since I've not written down, I've got an idea where I want to pull articles from, it makes it more conversational. And honestly, I don't know if people actually perceive me being funnier. I just laugh more at my own jokes now. Or I don't take myself as serious, which is the most important thing. And the most important piece of advice is don't take anybody too seriously. I've got a lot of friends that were like oohing and on that, that I help buy a business. It's not as glamorous as it looks like. It's actually a lot of work. I bought basically a job, is what I bought myself, as a job. And I bought multiple jobs because I get to do multiple things during the day, and it changes constantly because essentially whatever doesn't get done has to get done by upper management or ownership. And so we do one of two things: it doesn't get done and gets kicked down the road, or you do it. And that's also what makes owning a business very challenging, especially when we've got almost 24 employees, so we're not a small company. We're a small company compared to like a Google or an Amazon or something. We're not even hangnail on their hand. They do more than 10 seconds than we do in 10 years probably. They're a juggernaut in a business. And there's nothing comparable about us to these really large businesses. We're just a small bar and coffee bar and restaurant and uptown Charlotte, North Carolina, just trying to survive between the giants. But it's a lot of fun, and it's just like this show over the years has become a source of great joy and friendship between Christian and I. We enjoy doing it. We use it as our therapy. We use it as we get to talk about stuff that's important to us or what comes to mind. It's a great outlet, and a lot of other people find peace in it. And so we'll continue to do it as long as we enjoy doing it. We're going to do it for years to come. But I found the current Republicans, I don't know, I feel a lot less scared than I did in 2017. And maybe it's because we had never had as stupid of a president as Trump, so we didn't really know what to expect. And there was a lot of water when he came in. But we've seen this act before. And we know that the Congress is incompetent. We know that he's incompetent, and he's going to play golf 3 or 4 days a week. So he's only going to be president a couple of days a week, like he did last time. He was barely in the White House. That's why he didn't really get anything done in 4 years. Honestly, he just really lived his life. He just said, well, I'm president now. I'm going to go live my life. He didn't really worry about being presidential. He was like, well, I really need to be presidential. I am the president. So let me just go do what I deem as presidential, which is go play golf. Mm-hmm. Go hang out with people. Go be seen at the White House. Hold Bibles upside down. Things of that nature. Still campaign. I anticipate these however many years he's got left. I imagine he's going to campaign this whole presidency. He's become the number one fundraiser for the Republican Party. And he's kind of fell into that role, and I guess he's making money off it. I'm assuming he's not doing it for free. Whether he's getting paid a consulting fee or he's able to keep some. I don't know how all that works, but
staying at his hotels, all that.
Yeah. I mean, he's benefiting somehow. We all know that he's not losing on this proposition. He doesn't have the money to lose and all that. But I find that these people, even with the majority in the House, Mike Johnson still had to sneak an anti-trans bathroom ban at the U.S. Capitol into a congressional rules vote. That just happened this last week. So they're still obsessed with transgender people. And I've kind of figured out why they are so obsessed with abortion, IVF, transitioning, and gayness. Is they know that universal health care is inevitable. They know that 32 of the 33 most consequential economies in the world, most powerful nations, all have cracked the code, figured out how to offer universal health care. They did one thing differently than us. They figured out one source needs to pay for it. That's all they did. To send all the bills here. And they made a decision to send all the bills to one place. That's what it takes to have universal health care as a people. Problem solved. It literally is the only thing standing between us and having universal health care. Is agreeing as adults in this country to say, we're going to send all of our medical bills to one source. And they're going to scratch little checks out of that one source, and it's going to pay for our medical care. Because a hotel, the hospital, doctors, all that, it's already paid for. Salaries, hourlies, all that, they're going to be staffed no matter what. It's going to happen no matter what. We have medical care go on no matter what. Whether it's considered optional or non-optional, whether it's going to be paid for or not. Most of the time, when somebody dies before they can get the medical procedure because they were delayed because we don't know how to pay for something that we universally pay for in some instances, the only thing holding us back from universal medical care is agreeing who's going to pay the bill. And I don't know how simpler to make it. And it does sound like an oversimplification, but what else is there to debate? And I challenge people, and I've started changing this, how I word this, because it kind of, especially for the pro Medicare for all people, they give all these statistics and how much money we would save. And the people that are opposing it could care less about saving money. They know that it's the right thing to do. They just haven't convinced to give up the power that comes with deciding who gets medical care or not. And one of the reasons they're pushing against all these other forms of medical care, like abortion care, transitional health care, especially why these two are going particularly hard in the paint on, is that once like Medicare and Medicaid and all that establish that those types of health care will be continued to be paid for. And as long as those are legal in at least one state, when we get universal health care, it'll be legal in all 50 states and paid for. And so they're in this legal foot race against inevitability. They know whatever things they can't get universally poo-pooed is unethical, like transitioning and abortion care. But if it's unethical and illegal in all 50 states, they don't have to worry about paying for it. Because once it gets established, the precedent is ethical medical care and it gets paid for in systems, when we switch over, it will come over with it. It's one of the big pushes of why they don't want to pay for kids' transitional medication, because they don't want to pay for it. They could care less if kids transition. It never bothered them before. In the last 20, 25 years, where it's become commonplace, nobody said a flippant word. But we all know that universal health care and healthcare in general, and Obamacare, was one of the biggest debates since Obamacare happened. It's come up in every presidential race. It's always been the top 5 for a good majority of human beings. If you stop people on the street and go, out of these, what is one of your biggest priorities? They're almost always going to say healthcare and health. Healthy, wealthy, and wise. Like there's anytime that we talk about real wealth, what's the saying? You don't have real wealth until you have health. Like, it doesn't matter if you have $100 million in the bank if you're too sick to spend it, because you can't even leave the house, And so there is a lot of things going on, and a lot of the general population doesn't see it. But societal goes in these long runs of different changes in society, just like the integration of Black people in our society. And that's exactly what it was the integration of Black people in common society and white society. And it took 100 years after slavery to actually do it, to say, we're going to break down all the rules that divide us, that make you go to a different bathroom and all that. We're going to take all that off the table. You can be working in the same corporation, you can marry who you want, blah, blah, blah. If you're Black, they're white, doesn't matter, you can marry them. Mm-hmm. Live with them, hang out with them. We're not going to run an apartheid system. Just not going to do it. And we made that decision as a country in the 1960s, not the 1860s. We made the decision to end slavery in the 1860s through a civil war and constitutional acts. And theoretical slavery ended. The new kinds of sneaky slavery began. Sharecropping, indigenous nation reservations, all kinds of, indentured servitude to the military, come get an education. You get stuck in here for a few years. It's all forms of slavery or servitude. Whether it's paid or not is beside the point. You are a property or a slave of the United States when you serve in the military. You are American property is how you're referred to. But if you self-harm, you can actually be put in Leavenworth in a federal prison for damaging American property. The military servitude in the military-industrial complex is a modern version of slavery. But we're up against our second break, and we'll be back with some more Two Queers in the Truck. Hey, y'all, this is Jenny with Two Queers in the Truck, and Christian's along with me. We're just having fun, and we're looking forward to the 2025 season, and super excited. We have some neat things going on in our whole family of shows, including Coffee and Pan Dulce, and many new shows that are brewing. Get it. And we are excited for 2025 and all the chicanery and other things that comes with it. So happy New Year, and we'll see you on the flip side. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all. Bye, boo.
Bye, boo. Hey, everyone. Hey, thanks for listening for Two Queers in a Truck. And got an exciting new show coming on this year for our Canis Media listeners, which is basically the Coffee and the Two Queers show, including the one you're listening right now. We have a new one called Esperaz K. And it's with an exciting young host that we've had as a guest host in the previous years, named Urente. And he's really going to talk about the focus on young Latino and Hispanic community issues and challenges that come with being young and being Hispanic in America. And honestly, there's a lot of interesting topics. And of course, he has a perspective of a Gen Z person, which is way different than Christian and I. We're on the opposite end of life. But it's fun. It's fascinating. I know he's always been a great guest. I look forward to listening to his shows in 2025, as should you. I think it's going to be a special treat. It's like the Guns and Knives shows. We have guns and we have knives. So anyway, listen to our family of shows. We start dropping on Wednesdays at about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. And we keep on dropping the shows until they're all dropped like Easter eggs.
Drop.
It is weird, though, that the Easter Bunny doesn't lay eggs. But anyway, hope y'all check out Urente's new show, as many of our other great new shows in 2025, plus our old standbys. And we'll rock out 2025. Thanks for listening, as always.
Bye, y'all. Bye, boo.
Bye, boo. Hey, y'all. Thanks for listening to Two Queers in a Truck. And we do broadcast on YouTube and Facebook in a video version. And we're also on all the audio platforms out there. So your favorite way to listen to your podcast. We've been doing this for a couple years, and we appreciate y'all listening. We know you have a ton of choices, even though we may be the best choice. We always appreciate our listeners, and we'll try to bring you quality in the future. Thanks for listening. As always, Christian and Jenny, we're out. Thank y'all. And I may have missed a break there, but anyway, there's a good possibility. I'm all Twitter page this morning, but I find one of the interesting things about a lot of this long term, and I predicted a lot of things in 2019 on the show, and a lot of people like, oh, that's not going to happen, or this is not going to happen. All in all, I've been fairly accurate in most of my long term predictions, and knowing I think I understand conservatives better than most because I take away the emotion I feel towards them and the conflicts I feel towards them. And I just see what they're doing. I see what they're doing, and I take them at face value in what they would long-term would like to do. And conservatives in this country have always tried to find a way to deny certain things to certain people, and deny as much power to the people as possible. That's why they were able to run this country with 1% of its citizens voting for George Washington. Less than 1% of Americans voted for him. but he got 100% of the votes. Essentially, our first American presidents were more like appointed kings. It was only the wealthiest white men only that could vote in presidential elections. You had to be a landholder, definitely had to be white, could not be black. Women could not vote, so there was absolutely no women voting. So about 43,000 out of 30 million Americans voted. Basically, the less than the amount of people that would fit in Bank of America football stadium voted and said, we represent 30 million people, which is 3 times larger than the city of New York. So think about that, for example, is and that doesn't even count the slaves. That just counts the 30 million white Americans at that time. It does not include the slave population. And for the most part, and so that is a wild number to think about, is how disproportionate our political system. And now that, for the most part, anybody can vote. For the most part, they still work really hard in certain segments of the population having a tough time accessing the voting rolls. And again, it's about denying access. And the conservative philosophies is deny as much as possible. Design access, make it harder for people to live, control them through extortion, fear, things. Oh, but that foreigner is going to get your cookie, but it's convincing people that other people having access is going to hurt you. Having access to this country and the menial jobs that we need done and working in the fields, if they work that job, they're screwing you. With anybody with any common sense will go, I've never worked in a field in my life. I wouldn't even know where to start to even apply for a job like that. And I live in the middle of a flipping city. There ain't a crop within 20 miles of where I live. Other than maybe growing in somebody's greenhouse or grow room or something. But a big old farm, they're quite a ways away from where I live and work. And, North Carolina's an agricultural state, but not in the part of the state that I live in, and neither does Christian doesn't live in agriculture. Like, there's not a ton of farms near where we live. A lot of city, a lot of skyscrapers, not a lot of farms. It's not like West Texas where you can be on a highway and you can see a tractor going, a big old combine going down.
Yeah.
You're laughing, it's you're not surrounded by cotton farms and wineries and all kinds of stuff like that, where the majority of the landscape is actually farmland. Mecklenburg County is a very metropolitan area with a big urban sprawl. It actually sprawls out over multiple counties. But again, conservatives are really hell-bent. Another article that I'm not going to go a deep dive into is GOP-led Congress promises to save women with a rushed vote on an anti-trans sports bill. And again, trying to save women. Save women from what? And again, they've never proven any of this. So transitioning has never been proven to be long-term ineffective. But the recidivism on transgender-related surgeries is less than 1%. Healthcare, like hormones, is less than 1%. It's so low that it's non-existent because we're such a small population. Think about us only representing 1 out of 400 people on the top side. And the fact that only a fraction of us regret our healthcare and healthcare choices when it comes to transitional medicine is the opposite of what Republicans say, non-medical professionals say. But they framed it as such as that we're going to harm women in sports and we're going to harm, little girls because, a trans little girl is built to harm cisgendered little girls. So that's just the way it is. The moment you're queer and a kid, you got to be a monster. Let's fear the gay cheerleader kid. Very bizarre. It's a very bizarre mentality. But still, there's this lack of proof that astounds me when they rush these bills up, and when somebody finally asks, and during these hearings, and they always ask, well, how many trans kids do actually play sports in America? When they pull up the numbers are always abysmal. Like it was when Kansas was debating the bill in 22 and 23, the number of trans kids playing sports in Kansas sports in the entire state was like 2. Neither one of them a trans girl. So neither one was assigned male at birth. So it means there's only one other option pretty much except for intersex. So they're up in arms about 2 kids that were assigned female at birth. Because the big scary trans girls are the ones that we need to be afraid of. Those 2 trans masc or trans boys that they were up in arms about, that they wanted to do a genitalia search of all children, especially when suspected of transgenderism. But when we put it in perspective, just like the only thing stopping universal health care is agreeing who's going to pay for it, where all the bills and all the checks are going to go to. We just can't seem to agree on that quite yet. Either the wheels haven't got grease enough, there hasn't been enough executives bumped off. I don't know what the equilibrium that tips that scale where people go, oh, we're already paying for it 3 different ways. I wonder if we consolidated it would be more efficient and we'd all get our health care paid for. We never hear horrible words like medical bankruptcy should not exist. School lunch debt in our society should not exist. If we have money for bombs, we should have money for books, feeding kids while they're at school, and taking care of all of our health care. Again, it's a convoluted, stupid debate because our 32, primarily our trading partners that we do the most business with, they're large wealth, high wealth democracies for the most part, all have universal health care, including our neighbors to the north of us that have had it quite successfully for quite a while. California essentially has universal health care, and they're still able to afford it quite well, actually. The thing about moving to California is, you'll pay more in rent, but you get more benefits.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You pay for what you're paying, what it costs. Like, the thing of it is, less than if we adopted universal health care and we wanted to charge a little percentage out of everybody's paycheck, it would be less than 5% out of everybody's paycheck. It wouldn't cost that much. It probably cost more like 2 or 3% to do universal health care across the board. Versus some people pay up to 20% of their income in premiums.
Yeah.
If you're in the wrong situation at the wrong time, you lose your job and have a medical crisis at the wrong time, you are one of those people that has the possibility of being medically bankrupt and owing an amount of money that's an inconceivable, amount of money. And it's actually something that's quite scary. And I don't know. It's one of the wild conversations that we'll continue to have. And this show maybe wasn't as funny as I normally would do. Because quite frankly, in all transparency, we haven't done any new shows in a couple of weeks, and I'm definitely
That's right.
those. But also too, these are some topics that we've kind of kicked down the road, because of the election and all the concentration on the election and everything that comes with it, and the aftermath, and then we had the holiday season shows and all that. And one of the things that I've always wanted to circle back on and really talk about is how stupid we are about healthcare. And honestly, a lot of this came into my brain over the holidays as I had some downtime to talk to friends that live in other countries that have these benefits as a normal benefit. And it's one of the reasons I want to move to the United States is honestly, your healthcare system scares the shit out of me.
Mm-hmm.
All you got to do is read about our healthcare system in any major news apparatus and tell me a positive news that comes out of the healthcare industry. It's all pretty negative because it all has to do with the fact that we can't figure out who to bill. That we still have this debate decades after we should have gone on universal healthcare in the 60s and 70s. We've all known that. The Kennedy family, I know Ted Kennedy pushed it in Congress every year. He put it up in the Senate and never even went to a vote. They all hated Ted Kennedy so much. And so many Congress people, especially in the Senate, have a lot to lose by taking healthcare decisions out of their control, which they never should have been able to do. Nobody should be able to deny anybody a healthcare claim. That defeats the purpose of having insurance if you can't, if they won't pay. That's crooked, and in most industries would be a crime. For some reason, insurance gets you promoted, or you become a senator, like Scott did from Florida. Anyway, is the end of the show. It's all 6 segments, and we will see you next week. Thanks for listening, as always, to Two Queers in the Truck. And hope you have a great week. Bye, boo. Hey, y'all. Thanks for watching Two Queers in the Truck. And once again, we survived another episode at our first one in 2025. Hope y'all listen all year. We're on all the platforms, I believe. And we are rocking and rolling it, and going to have a great year. And who knows, may not go by as fast this year. Anyway, happy 2025, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, y'all. Bye, boo.
Bye, boo.